Yo, guys, welcome back to the Blue Podcast with me, Tom, and Ben. How you doing, mate?
Good, thanks.
And we've got his lovely mum, Rosemary. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Nice of you to invite me on.
No worries. You're the first mum to get on. I've now got to persuade my mum. So,
Fabulous that.
For the viewers, remember we upload these Thursday 4 p.m. We may have another family member on next week, so check that out. Spotify and merch in the link in the description as per usual, and our Twitter and Instagram both at Blue Podcast. One, give us a message if you want to come on and all that jazz. So, how have you been lately, guys?
Okay, we've just had tea.
Yeah, just had tea. I'm not sure that's what he was. I'm not sure that's what he was.
Yeah, but that's what you get.
To.
That's what I get. That's what I want.
Get if the mother comes on.
Yeah. It was probably meaning like in general, like a bit more deep, not
I
want to know if you just had some tea.
It was like thinking, like, oh yeah, we're coping with the lockdown. Well,
yeah, the dystopian.
Well, no, this week's been an insight into your life, Ben. So it's good to know that you just had tea.
yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. But like, if we're not going deep, we just had tea.
Anyway, I have a bit of a disclaimer. I know nothing about football, really.
We won't be talking about football.
That's all right. Well, no, you know a bit about Italian football.
Yeah. Well, maybe a tiny bit, but it's probably from a girl's point of view that they're all very attractive in the Italian. So I watch Italian football for that reason. But I am a little bit patriotic as well. Yeah. So if there's a World Cup, I always go for Italy first and then England second. Is that bad?
Oh dear, that must cause some conflict in the house.
It does. Well, I think they're all used to me by now.
No, we there isn't really sort of like we don't really choose one or the other. It's kind of if there's an England game on, we'll watch that. If there's an Italy game on, we'll watch that. So
well, if it's that is a question for you, Ben. If Italy, England, who you support?
It's difficult. I kind of go into neutral mode and just be like, whoever wins, like I'll just.
You'd be happy for either.
Happy for either.
So you'd be equally happy if England won the World Cup against Italy, with Italy winning the World Cup against England. You'd be equally happy.
I think I'd probably, probably. I don't
saying all the right answers. I do remember once when you were a little boy, we had to have the Italian and the English flag up. Do you remember?
Yeah. Well, we didn't have them up, but we had them in that house, didn't we? But I remember. I mean, this is a little bit more. Probably remember the 2006 World Cup. The first time that I properly watched a World Cup. England. You probably remember it. England lost to Portugal. That was the first time I proper cried.
You did.
I cried my eyes out with that match. Luckily, Italy went on to win the World Cup, so I was happy. But with England, I was absolutely distraught. I was inconsolable. I mean, I'm still a poor loser now, but I was a proper poor loser back then.
But I do. My biggest memory though is of the flags, because I'm sure didn't we have one at the window?
Yeah. No, I don't think we had one at the window. We did have.
But we had to get you an Italian flag as well. I do remember that quite clearly. So there isn't conflict, but I'm quite conflicted because I was born in England. So I'm quite patriotic about all things English and British, but I'm also very European because I have.
Well, it's like you're English due to birth, but both your parents are Italian,
so I'm the
genetically you are Italian.
Yeah, which brings me on to when Natalie did her DNA sampling.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday as well.
We spoke about that yesterday. For viewers, this is being recorded the day after we had Natalie on the Sunday.
Yeah,
but
like we don't really have that conflict. But it's a good point. It's a good point.
I do.
Yeah, it's a good point that I mean he's meaning like between family members,
but
like it's a good if England play Italy, then which has happened a couple of times in recent tournaments. But I kind of just go into neutral and like whoever wins, it's like
you're cheering either way.
Yeah, we're happy either way. We support them both, don't we?
As long as they're both playing decent football, then you can't really complain. Yeah. So
fair enough.
That's fair, isn't it?
Go. No,
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, it's like I don't know, Italy aren't renowned for playing attacking football, but they're playing all right football now. So
they've got a good team coming through. Ish. I mean, they got a lot of old players as well, I think.
Well, I think in Italy there's a bit more of a there's not as much of a thing about if you're old then you're crap, like sort of thing.
Yeah. Because there was
until you drop, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, well, go on, carry on. Your turn.
Well, no, I was saying there was a striker who was 30 who made his debut for Italy recently, wasn't there?
Yes, Paulinho. There was, yeah. Yeah, something like that. But it's like Dib Paul or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Which is a bit crazy.
But I mean,
so do you think they've skills?
Well, they just I think it's a thing with Italians just in the culture and society is if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So if a player's decent, then play them. Like that's their attitude.
It's like when you watch Italian TV, especially men, because it's quite patriarchal, the society generally. The men can be well into the 70s and 80s and be presenting up-to-date programs, and they have like a real status. So older people are treated as wise people to be respected. So it's a cultural difference. So I suppose it would spill into sport a little bit. So
but
if
I mean,
there is they're going to sign
there is that crossover where they carry on playing them when they have gone past the best.
That is, that's the worry.
Which does happen, but generally they're like, well, if they're decent, then play them. I mean, Zlatan's an example of that. He's 39 and still.
Well, but that's a one-off though.
Yeah, I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo, he's 30.
Well, yeah, obviously but I'm saying that these are players who are the best, and it's not like Willian who's is ever gonna turn out to be as good as Neymar eventually or whatever.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
But we were talking before this about the Maradona kit that we saw yesterday with Napoli beating Roma 4-0.
Yeah.
Do you like the kit?
It looked all right to me.
I've not seen it, so
it's like an Argentina version of.
You've seen Argentina's kit?
Yeah.
So it's basically that, but Napoli.
Oh right, I see. Yeah. Well, they're in mourning at the moment for Maradona, and it's all over the news. It's all in the chat shows. People are coming on and reminiscing about when they met him, and people are being interviewed that might have just seen him on the street once, and it's just gone crazy. They've gone. It's a nation in mourning, especially in Naples.
I mean, I saw this quote, and it was I've forgotten it. It must have been an Italian journalist or something. He was like, since when Maradona arrived, they judged years of before Maradona and after Maradona in Naples. Because they weren't successful at all before he came, and then he came and they started winning.
They're only 2 titles, right?
Yeah, started winning for fun. So, like, that's how they do
it. Is his brother still in Naples?
Well, this is the story that you saw.
Yeah.
Apparently, his brother.
I saw this on Italian TV.
Wait, I wanted to ask: Are you fluent in Italian then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We said in Neapolitan
so,
as well.
But I speak a dialect. Of Italian with my mum, because my mum's nearly 90, and in those days it was very much a regional language, so each region had its own language.
It's become a lot more uniform
and it's because Italy wasn't actually one nation till Garibaldi united them, and it was like a civil war. And I think that was in the 19th century.
So you have. So with Italy, you had all these different sort of
there were little
kingdoms sort of thing. So you had like Venice had its own thing, and Milan and
I didn't really know any of this.
And then
fascinating stuff,
and then you had the
really.
Kingdom of Naples, and then I think the Pope, the Papal States was mid-Italy. So the Pope used actually
it's still considered its own.
Yeah, but they used to have their own.
Yeah.
They used to have their own land, basically. The Pope used to control part of Italy.
Yeah.
And like mid-Italy was the Papal States.
So going back to language, it developed separate each of Italians. Gone.
Yeah, I can just about hear you. Do you want to start that again? Yeah, you were saying each region had their own dialect.
So each region had their own version of Italian, and as it developed, so my mum is speaking a version of Neapolitan. But then in the 60s and 70s, there was a big drive to lose those dialects so that everybody spoke the same language so that you could understand. It would be universal Italian. So most people that live in Italy now probably know both. The universal language, which is Italian, and the regional dialect version
they
of
say
it.
That
I need to ask my housemate then, because he is Italian as well. So
you'll understand exactly what I mean. So when I visited Italy and all I spoke was the regional dialect, they were going to me, no, you must learn Italian because this dialect will die out and you won't know what we're saying anymore.
It still hasn't.
But it hasn't died out because people, well, it's
stuck in the ways.
Yeah.
Clinging on to a tradition, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's your mother tongue, I guess, if you spoke to in a certain way, and then
so that's what you used to. You're going to still use it.
Yeah.
But they say that Italian is the language that's most similar to Latin. The main language, but Sardinian is even closer, which is a dialect, a regional language, Sardinia. Sardinian.
And if you go to Sicily, most Italians do not understand what Sicilians are talking about because it's so diverse from Italian language, the mainstream language.
But it's
quite fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at languages. Like, so you have those regional stuff, but in terms of sort of Europe, everyone sort of thinks of it as sort of you have Italian, French, Spanish. Like it's its own little thing, but even across borders, it changes slightly as you go. Right. So you have Italy here, and as you go into France, you have a language called Occitan or something, which is partly French and partly Italian. Wow. And then you carry on going, then you get to Catalan, with obviously Barcelona and stuff.
Yeah.
That's a bit more Spanish, French, and then you go towards Madrid, and that's a full Spanish. Castilian Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a whole subject. You could have a podcast just on language.
Because I feel like I don't know enough about it to do for myself. But I know this is really interesting because I think the average person doesn't really know, in England anyway, about all
there is, and then you get I think you get a regional language in the northern Spain that's like part Portuguese and part Spanish or something. So there's crossovers because it's you can't, with a sort of the movement of people, there's always going to be that sort of crossover and merging sort of thing, where those people meet. And then obviously the further away you get, the further away from each language you get, and that's when you get your French and Italian sort of coming through properly.
So when I was a little girl, I went to like a Saturday morning school to learn proper Italian. And I would speak dialect at home with my mum, but my father's dialect was slightly different from my mum's.
He's from Lazio?
He's from Lazio, a little place called Tufo.
Yes, and the Tufo comes from that, I've heard.
Yeah, so that's where the surname's from. So I was learning Italian, I spoke Neapolitan, her version of it, because even Naples is split into little towns, and each town had a slightly different version. And then I was going to school and I spoke English. And I thought at the grand old age of 5 that there was mummy's language and then what everybody else spoke outside the home. So I had this confused idea that I was my mum's translator for the longest time. I never stopped being her interpreter as a child, because she worked in the cotton mills in Hyde.
Yeah.
And she used to have to, she learned English by lip reading because the looms were so loud. So her English to this day is very, very broken. She's better at lip reading English than she's actually at articulating it.
But I mean, Grandpa was completely different, because he had an English book, apparently.
Yes, he did.
And learnt it religiously.
It was called Hugo's Learn a Language in 3 Months. So he came to this country in 1954. And it's very poignant, this coming up today, because I've just befriended someone on Facebook who is the daughter of my dad's cousin.
Okay.
And she's shown me a couple of photographs, and there's a photograph of her and a brother, I think, with her dad back in Tufo in 1952. And she said, look at his shoes. And if you look at his shoes, you could see his toes. That's how poor it had become.
This is what we were talking about yesterday, where there was just no work.
There's just no.
So that's why they came over here.
So they emigrated to America.
Yeah.
My dad left Tufo in 1954, having been a prisoner of war. So I don't know if you know anything about the history of the Italians during the war. But that's
not much of it.
Yeah. So
I mean, I'm happy to go into it if you would want to.
Briefly, Mussolini was the dictator. The fascist dictator, but they actually loved him.
At the start, they loved him because they were, Italy was in ruins, basically, and he allowed them to plant on any bit of grass there was. So they were like, oh, he's saving us, he's saving us. Basically what Germany were like with Hitler. And then obviously it turned sour when they were like, right, we want to take over the world, basically.
Yeah.
So Mussolini, so in 1943, when Italians kind of woke up and thought, hang on a minute, this is not right, what's going on? And they overthrew Mussolini. And then Italy, unfortunately, because they'd been with the Germans for all that time, they were then... Germany had control of Italy.
Yeah, so I can expand on that a bit. So, you know, sort of the invasion of Italy, where they pushed up from the south and upwards.
No, my history's not brilliant. I'm not gonna lie. My mom's gonna kill me because she does history at school. So, but no, I don't know much.
What are the gaps? Because I'm telling you anecdotally.
Basically,
that's fair enough.
The Allies invaded Italy from the south and pushed upwards. And as they were doing that, the Italians were like, hang on a minute, Mussolini's a bit of a dick. We're going to get rid of him. And so they overthrew him. And as the Italian people, they were falling apart. They were pushing up from the bottom of Italy. And then the Germans were like, hang on a minute, we've got to defend this. So they put loads of troops in northern Italy. So 1943 to 1945 was, they call it the Italian Civil War. It was the sort of Germans supporting the Italian fascists against everyone else, basically in the south. And there was battles, obviously, as they pushed up through.
Battles.
Yeah, pushed up through the south. What's the thing on top of the mountain? Monte Cassino. Monte Cassino is one of like the famous battles.
If Monte Cassino,
really bad.
If that battle hadn't been won, what was the end of the war? What was the last battle?
D-Day.
Yeah. That couldn't have happened if the battle at Cassino hadn't been won by the Allies. So that happened within the same week. but it's very little is known about it because the D-Day landings is a thing,
as they should be. But obviously, there's a place in history for all this stuff.
But the poignancy of the place, it all happened in a valley, and
that's never good in war.
And there are cemeteries to all the different armies from all the different countries. So there's a Polish army, an American army cemetery, English cemetery, and what's poignant is that they're all buried in the fashion of their own countries, and there's a point where you can stand and you can see it all. And there's also a German cemetery. And what made me really sad was that they just were given numbers, whereas the rest of them had a name. If they could find the name of the soldier, they would put the name and his army number on. But the Germans, and these were bits of kids that were, a lot of them were just thrown into it.
No, I'm not like, I'm not saying there's obviously the ones that were extremists, but there was the ones who were just average Joes, like the one in the Allies side who were just like, we don't do this. They're like, we don't care.
And it's a very poignant place. So if you ever go to Italy,
I mean,
it's one to visit, Monte Cassino.
The most sobering thing is that my nana was a few miles away from it happening, so she could hear the bombings and the fighting and stuff.
And what does she do now if she sees a war film?
Yeah, she turns it off straight away.
I can't listen. I cannot listen.
Turns it off straight away.
Yeah.
But I mean, the story that she says is that she remembers seeing the Allied soldiers on the train, and she said that the English soldiers were the best behaved.
They were kind, and they were best behaved, and they were kind.
The Americans were the really raunchy ones.
Yeah, so. and she was only little, and she was a child, one of 7, because it's a Catholic country.
Yeah,
so there's no birth control, as you can imagine. So there were 7 children, and she was a robust little girl, and ended up working on the farmland with a dad, and they mass-produced tomatoes for the market. So the tin tomatoes, they would sell their produce every year. And they also grew their own vegetables, which got nicked by the Germans. So it was awful. So there was a lot of that going on, and they had to.
This is before education was compulsory and stuff. So if you're old enough, you were old enough to go to work, basically.
Yeah.
So she remembers the British soldiers always throwing chocolate out of the trains to these children they could see, and she'd never tasted anything as wonderful in her life. So you can imagine she was born in 31, so at the beginning of the war she'd be about 9, wouldn't she, and about 13 when all this was taking place. So she was quite a young girl, really. And she always used to say they were so kind, and yet the following day they'd all be in their airplanes bombing us, and we were running for cover because obviously there was land and air battles to get rid of the Germans. So it was a real mixed bag. So because of that, after the war, Italy was completely flattened, and there was no proper political system. It was an absolute mess.
Right. So in Italy after that, so at first Mussolini was saved by the Germans, but then when they conquered Italy, the Italians killed him, basically.
Yeah. We won't go into that because it was quite awful.
I mean, there's a photograph if you want to see it that's really quite graphic.
Yeah.
And there was a referendum on whether they wanted to keep a monarchy, and they voted to get rid of it, which is why Italy is now a republic.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's another story about my grandpa, because he was a prisoner of war, but he was saved by a German soldier from drowning or something.
So just a little bit about that. My dad Now, he was born in 1925, so in 25, 35, he'd be about 16, 17 when the tide changed in 1943. So these young men between 15, say, and 20 were herded up by the Germans and put in prisoner of war camps in Germany and treated as traitors of the state. So they were treated only slightly better than the Jews. And my dad and my uncle ended up in there. And who died of malaria during the war, and they were partisans. And that's another really strange situation, because he thought being communist was against the fascists.
Yeah. So when I was talking about it was like the Italian fascists and supported by the Germans against everyone else. Everyone else was like your centre right, centre left, left wing, right, well, not right wing, and communists basically.
Yeah.
So because the fascists were so bad, communists seemed okay
didn't it?
At the time, which obviously quite clearly aren't, but it was better than the alternative at the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, after the war, they loosened the stance, but it's like, well, to fight in fascists.
So there was two things
why not,
about my dad during the war that always resonate with me. So as was the case in most of Europe, the German women were left to fend for themselves and run the farms and run the factories, because all the men had gone to war. And what they used to do with these lads, they would volunteer them to go and help on farms. And in fact, here before 1943, there were prisoner of war camps locally. Yeah. Italians had been captured by the Allies.
Yeah.
And they were doing the same.
It's part of the that Fawcett Accords.
And he said,
there's an agreement that you have to.
Yeah. And he said that these women would find work for him to do because he'd lost so much weight, and he was a kind young man and was really handy at fixing things. So they kept requesting for him so that they could give him a good meal. And that, for me, tells you a little bit about what was actually the real story in Germany.
Yeah.
The undercurrent was that there was just normal people trying to just get on in life.
Yeah.
And then tell the story about the Germans.
I don't really know the story properly, but I just know that was he drowning or something, and a German soldier saved him.
Yeah, this was a rogue German soldier that had left the army. A deserter.
Yeah.
And he was being hidden by the Italians in Minturno, which is like the province where of Lazio, where my dad's from. And I don't know what happened that day, but my dad maybe got pulled in by a current, and this guy swam out to save my dad's life. So despite everything that happened, this German man, saved my dad's life.
That's quite incredible.
It is, isn't it? So there's all these stories that people don't realise. And when people think about immigrants, it's always quite negative, I think. And in recent history, it has been so. But people don't really leave their own country for no reason.
Yeah.
They leave because they're desperate. So full circle, I saw this picture today of my great cousin. He'd be my dad's cousin.
Yeah.
With no proper shoes on, his toes were showing through, and it's an old black and white picture, and you can actually see it. And it actually, all that big story I've just told you, all in this one photograph, this one image, became very real to me today. So it's weird that I should be talking about it today.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, it's I didn't with sort of the English book, I remember you saying that Grandpa was saying that you have to do your best to fit in, sort of thing. Because it's like, yes, you're leaving your own country and going to a different one, but it's not. I know it's not your country, so you have to respect.
That country, so my father never asked for anything. For the first. And every 6 months they had a little book, and they used to have to go to the local police station and get it stamped every 6 months to prove they'd not been in trouble with the police, because if they had, they would be sent back, they'd be deported back. And he always said to me, Rosemary, nobody owes you anything. You have to work hard for what you have, and education is the way out of poverty. They can't, if they can take your land, they can take your goods. Because my father's father had a vineyard in Italy, and it just all collapsed, and they had their own shoemaking business. It all disappeared. So my father always said to me, Rosemary, get a good education, because they can, whatever happens politically in any country, no one can strip you of that education, and that's the way out of poverty. And that's been my philosophy in life. And nobody owes you anything. You have to work very hard and be respectful in the country that you happen to be in. But so when people say, well, the immigrants are getting the job, it's not true. They're just very willing to work.
I mean,
at the bottom level which is what my parents did.
There's obviously a balance to be had. But it's like, and with everything, there's good and bad people everywhere. But like, so the majority of them will be good people. There obviously will be the bad ones, but like you say, the majority of them will be here because they're starving. They've got no choice.
They've got no choice.
And often as well, though, with the people that do come here, they're doing the jobs that the general public don't want to do.
Exactly.
And people just can't accept that.
I know, but they're not thinking straight, really, are they? Because they won't do those jobs. They won't go strawberry picking.
They look at it at face value. They don't actually look into it. That's the problem. But that's my story, I guess, and a little bit about the history. And so I feel that you guys have had the best of both worlds, because I've tried to bring the best bits of the culture to the family. There's good and bad bits of all culture. But,
It was quite Italy was a very strange place culturally. So it was quite Asian in its attitude to women.
She's saying Asian in the sense of arranged marriages was normal, I think, basically. Back in the day.
So
how long ago roughly are we talking?
Back in the war.
We're talking, well, my mum's 90 almost. So in her lifetime. So in the 20th century, women had to have a dowry. So they'd have, they had to show that what they were bringing to the marriage. And it was a decision that was made often between the parents, and not just, you couldn't just fall in love with anybody. It would have to be approved, and you would have to, if you really liked a girl, you would have to be very considered and very respectful and knock on that door and ask for her hand. And to this day, the word boyfriend in Italy is fidanzato, which is my fiance, not they are just boyfriend and girlfriend.
It comes from them being it'd be a very Catholic country. And obviously that's going to happen when you've got the Pope there. But like it comes from that very religious.
It does. But it's fascinating, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been learning loads kind of recently. So.
But the funny side of it all, isn't there, as well, whereby every time you go to Nonna's, she used to give you money. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
She'd slip him a fiver.
I think all grandmas do that. But,
yeah.
But it's an art form with them, you know. Yeah. So there was daft things like that, but there's also the richness of the food. It's just, I don't think I can cook an English meal without it tasting slightly Italian.
Yeah.
If I just cottage pie, you'll think, what's different about this? And it's because it's got Italian seasoning in it.
Like oregano in it.
Yeah.
Oregano and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and garlic, lots of it.
Lots of garlic.
There's always vino at the table. So when you're little in Italy, you're not deprived of wine.
Well, yeah, isn't from the age of 10, you're allowed to have a glass of wine with your meal?
Do you know what? I think I probably had it earlier than that.
Yeah, it's not like you have like a full on.
You don't have just a large glass of red wine with every meal.
You have like little tipple. Like,
I understand.
I think there's some kudos in it because it's a part of the meal.
Exposing you to it.
It's exposing it to it, and it takes away the mystique of alcohol.
That's
so you're less likely to go out binge drinking because so because you've had the wine, you know what that tastes like, and you either like it or you don't, but it's part of the meal. So my father often would give them a little glass. When I wasn't looking as well, they'd get a little tipple, wouldn't you? You didn't know Grandad.
I didn't know Grandpa. He passed away just after I was born.
Yeah.
But I mean, another part of the culture is, I guess you've seen the photo, and it's of that Italian woman presenting the football show. Have you seen that? She's like
attractive Italian.
Yeah. So. But that's the other side. So Mum was saying about you have the men presenters who are like all these old.
Yeah, they are old.
Like 70-year-old presenters, you know, the wise. And then you have the 20-year-old woman standing next to them.
Very leggy and pretty.
Yeah. So that's another part of it. And I
mean, and it's a strange thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's obviously you're not gonna not put a young woman in there, but the fact that she stood next to an old man.
I see. Yeah.
I think
because obviously it's
they don't even see what we see. Really,
that's just part of the culture.
It's patriarchal, and you know.
Like, this is not to say that like women in Italy are like what do you call it, like persecuted and stuff like that, and suffering, but like there is that underlying
it's a cultural thing, really. So,
I wanted to go back on the drinking thing. I've spoken about it with a few people as well, but it's like the opposite of America, in a sense. Like you hear about all these frat parties where people go crazy, but that's because they're not legally allowed to drink till they're 21.
That's it. That's it. There's a mystique and it's exciting because it's against the law, isn't it?
I mean, in England, you're allowed to drink your meal at 16. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Or 15 or 16.
Yeah, that's right.
So there is a bit less mystique, obviously.
Yeah. I think that there's a bit more balance here than there is in America. But I think like that there's I mean, it's starting to be lost, that sort of, because pubs are closing left, right, and centre, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because obviously it's dead cheap to go and buy beer from the shop, but I think it is something that's I think it is like something that should be preserved, something like going to the pub and stuff, because it's a lot better than going to a club and stuff, I think.
Definitely.
I get
with my mate. With like, if you want to go watch the game, football, go into the pub for that is great because you kind of allow those people there. You're with your mates.
But
that especially, and then also like going to a beer garden in the evening when it's sunny.
Oh, it's lovely that.
Right, exactly.
It is. It's lovely.
It's being lost, isn't it?
It is, and I think being locked down for a year almost is killing it off completely, isn't it? I don't know what the land.
Well, I mean, it's killing off a lot of things. It's killing off cinema. It's killing off high street. But people, I mean, it was already suffering, but
cinema. Yeah, we've spoken about this before. Cinemas have really taken a hit from it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, is it Cineworld have closed indefinitely and Odeon are only opening at weekends, so it's pretty much done, isn't it? Yeah. It's going to be everything's released on streaming services, and you pay a premium if you want to see it straight away. Yeah. That's what's going to happen now.
But we
it's a little treat.
Yeah. Well, we were talking. Sorry, I could hear what you said. But we spoke about it with the comic book guys. That I think for some people though, the going to the cinema to see a certain movie that they've been looking forward to is kind of, I guess, tradition, like we've been saying, and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think I'm not saying that cinema is just going to disappear, but it's going to become like a very
unique
thing. Yeah.
It's a whole thing, isn't it? And for a person my age, we grew up with the local cinema, and it was just great. You know, you'd go with your sixpence. And you get it on
This
is in olden days, and you go on a Saturday morning and watch let me think, Batman or whatever it was, and you get your ice cream, and it was like a trip out, and it took you out of everyday humdrum. And I think for my generation, it still is that. It just takes you out of the situation you're in. I don't know, you get dressed up a bit, you have an ice cream whilst you're watching your favourite movie star, and you forget your troubles for a bit. Watching on streaming, to me, you're still in your home, aren't you? You've not changed your routine. And I think it's all about mental health, and I think entertainment.
That's that tying into mental health. It's not just cinema, it's just going out.
Just going out.
Massively.
Just going and having a coffee in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Find all the different coffees and not knowing what they are. And it's like your dad wouldn't know one coffee from another, would
he? Have a coffee. Yeah. I've just remembered what the show was with that Italian woman. It was basically their version of Match of the Day. That's what it was. Yeah.
So we've got Gary Lineker, and they've got a 20-year-old woman.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a bit of eye candy whilst you're talking about football.
The thing is, I think Gary Lineker's more eye candy for the wives than it is for the men.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there.
Make it less boring for the wife that's watching with them.
Yeah. It's like, right, I'm watching Match at Day. Right.
All right, sure, that's fine.
So I am conscious of the time because I look after his grandma, my old nonna. So
we can wrap it up if you need to.
I was just thinking about the questions you wanted to ask me.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
I'll get that up.
See if my answers match Natalie's. Hey.
Yeah. I was just thinking about Maradona. They were saying that in Naples that they're
on the streets crying.
Yeah, they're on like there's the thing on the news, and they're on the streets crying, bawling their eyes out.
Yeah, they're bawling about it. Oh, Maradona, he was such a good person.
It's shocking that one person.
He wasn't a good person. He was a good footballer.
Yeah,
but they're twisting it. You see, in their head, he's this wonderful.
Yeah. Like it's. I was going to say it's crazy that one person can affect people that much.
I don't know whether it goes with the Latin temperament a little bit.
Maybe.
Because I think.
But there was that you were talking about. There was another Argentinian, something Perón.
Yeah, Eva
Perón. She was like from way back when.
Oh well, there's a theatre play about her.
For me, Argentina.
I've seen that. Yeah,
she was married to a dictator, but they absolutely loved her.
They loved her, and
that's just one person affecting so many people.
Do good deeds for everybody, and they had a national. Was it a week of mourning or 3 days? I can't quite remember, but they just all went into mourning completely about this woman. And I think that's what's happened with Maradona over in Argentina and somewhat in Naples, I can say. And I did see on the BBC News app that the Maradona's doctor shooted. I heard today. Yeah. So because he wasn't great with his drugs, was he, Maradona?
It was medical negligence being looked into.
So I thought a little bit of the Michael Jackson thing there going on there. Looking at this guy now and wondering whether he's giving him overdosed him.
I saw another thing about it, and it was apparently there's a minute silence at a women's game, and one of the women wouldn't take part. She sat down and turned the opposite way.
Really?
Because she said that there hasn't been proven, but she said that he was a rapist and a paedophile and stuff. And it's like there's no, I don't.
So they all come out of the closet,
I don't know if there's evidence. I don't know if there's evidence of that, or like there's been claims of that, but that's what she was saying.
So which football?
It's just I think it was a Spanish
right.
women's team, but yeah, I don't know if there's been like accusations or whatever. But
it's fascinating, isn't it? What happens when somebody famous dies? Did you see his little interview about the hand of God the other day?
With Lineker, yeah. He's like, I don't think it's cheating.
He didn't think it was cheating.
He's like, back in Argentina, that's not cheating. Like, I've scored many goals in my hand. And Lineker was like,
I think the entire British nation could disagree with that.
Yeah, I think that like Lineker was like, well, I think it's cheating.
It made me.
Well, yeah, and did you see that they made Peter Shilton have an interview on BBC to talk about the death of Maradona?
Yeah, and he was like, well, he cheated.
Not happy. He just clearly wasn't happy to be there. It's like, why would you bring up something that bad?
Odd, isn't it?
I mean, like you were saying about it, Maradona's brother still lives in Naples.
Yes, he does. He
trains youth players.
He used to train with Maradona, and I saw an interview with him on Italian TV, and he was saying that very soon in their teens, and it became clear that his brother had the skills to take it further, and he didn't. But he came over to Naples when Maradona, his brother, came over, and he loved the Italian people that much that he stayed, and he coaches in Naples in the inner city, and he coaches poor lads. So I think it's probably he's living off the back of his brother, really, but they love him as well. But he is doing good from this.
That's good.
That he is, coaching young men and young kids and helping them achieve. Because I think football has that effect on a lot of children. It's a force for good, and it's I don't know about the big stakes, but certainly when you're little and you're learning your skills and you're learning to play in a team and be a team member, and you're learning a lot, and it's good for your morale and your confidence. And that's apparently his strength with these young poor Italians. So
I mean
that's what I heard, whether it's true or not, because you never know.
You never know.
You never know.
I mean, it was my mum who got me into football, so
it was my fault.
I wouldn't have been into football if that wasn't
all my fault. I wanted them all to have at least one hobby. That was it. I just wanted them to have an interest other than school. I thought it was healthy for them.
Yeah, definitely.
So we tried all sorts with you, but we settled in the football, didn't you, in the end?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got these questions.
Yeah.
Do you want me to ask them for your mum?
Yeah, you can do. I'll have to tailor them to my mum, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll tailor them to your mum. I won't do all of them. I'll do the ones that I find most interesting. Do you remember Ben's first crush? So are you going to say the same as Natalie?
Neve. Yeah, Neve Ingham. Lovely girl. Bit older than him. But she was beautiful, and he said he saw her in was it a nativity play at school?
Some sort of play,
and he said, "Oh, who is that beautiful girl?" And he was so keen on her. I think you were about 5 to be fair. And he had a photograph taken with her that Christmas. Yeah.
I've heard the story now. It's very cute. It's very cute. What is one thing you've never told Ben?
I don't know. I mean, there'll be lots of stuff that I won't know about.
Yeah, but something maybe I don't know.
What thing?
You can answer that with anything.
Yeah. Because you've told me some stuff, but there's obviously stuff that you've forgotten or haven't.
Can we come back to that when I answering the other questions?
Is there something you'll never let Ben forget?
The little fibs he used to tell that became big fibs.
This was brought up yesterday.
The video gate.
Yeah.
When he taped over his sister's show, and then he pretended for several days that he knew nothing about it.
It's like I'm hearing an echo from yesterday.
Yeah. There was also an incident when he was slightly older with games, but the other incident that sticks in my head is is that you kept breaking your phones, and it was because you didn't like them.
Yes. So no. So it wasn't that I didn't like them, but I did have this. I had this inability to keep my phone safe, so I just seemed to drop it really easily. There was 1 or 2 times where I dropped it because I was like, this phone's crap, it needs fixing. But like most of the time I just had the inability to just keep my phone in my hand. I don't know why.
Anyway, he lied.
You did with your feet, not with your hands.
I think you actually used your bag at one point to be a goalpost.
Yes, I did.
Phone in it,
and a ball got kicked at it and it got smashed and stuff like that. So yeah, I just had this. It just seems to. I seem to have this jinx.
Fibs.
Seems to have this curse against me.
Yeah. Next question.
If you could meet anyone, alive or dead, who would it be?
If I could meet anyone, do you want somebody in history?
No,
it's just a personal. Anyone you'd like to meet.
Yeah, another day with my dad would be lovely. Yeah,
that's very nice.
Yeah.
Have you
that was different to what me and Nat were like, what do you think, Liam Gallagher or something like that?
Yeah. My all-time hero, my dad. So
that's lovely.
I'd love to see him again. Yeah.
Have you thought of something you haven't told Ben before?
Not particularly, really.
Yeah, I mean,
because I suppose the things I haven't told him are big secrets, and I'm never
you don't want them shared.
Answer as any, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think that's general. Unless you want to answer who's the funniest sibling out of the 3 of them.
I mean, we said this yesterday. We've all got our own.
Yeah, they're all different. They're different humoured, but Natalie would probably make more people laugh.
No. She's an entertainer.
So she's
like she'll be doing like the stand-up, not stand-up comedy, but she'll be on the stage doing it. That's what she's meaning.
Yeah.
You can't take it, Ben. You can't take it. You were saying it yesterday.
I'm defending myself.
You're a practical joker, I think, a little bit, aren't you? But they're all humorous in their own way.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I just saw. Have you seen Maradona's daughter at Boca Juniors Stadium?
No.
The Boca Juniors team did a tribute and she was crying and stuff.
Oh.
So
Oh, well, she's lost her dad, hasn't she? And
well, apparently
whether we like him or not, she's lost her dad.
Yeah.
You know, whatever the rumours are and whatever's right or wrong, it's hard. Yeah.
What are you saying, sorry?
Well, apparently the ex-wife of Maradona and the kids and someone else is battling for his house in Argentina.
Oh, right. I bet there's going to be a lot of this going on now for all his wealth. Is he still wealthy though, or has he squandered it?
I think he is still quite wealthy.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got. He probably did like spend a bit of it. I'm sure he's still got.
He also probably invested in certain areas of Argentinian smelling stuff. If you understand,
he probably recouped it with
yes,
probably recouped it with sponsorship as well. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
Is there anything you want to ask me while she got me on the spot?
Yes.
Did I say that?
I can't think of anything. I was just on the house. His house, is it like an expensive house or something? Is that
back on Maradona here?
Millions.
Right. Fair enough.
Millions.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's only appropriate considering, I mean, you've got a heritage from Naples, and obviously he was very big in Napoli. So
I've just remembered something. A lot of my mum's extended family back in the 1940s and 50s actually emigrated to Argentina.
We spoke about it.
So I think there was a big contingent of Italians. Some came here, some went to America, and some went to Argentina. So I think that's where those bonds are quite strong, really. Because it isn't the Pope, he's Argentinian, but isn't his mum Italian?
I'm not sure.
I think so. I think his mum or his dad was Italian. So
I know that Boca Juniors, like the area is where a lot of the Italian immigrants settled.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
We're all connected, aren't we? Really,
it is very. It's a small world, really.
It's a small world, yeah. To say we're about 7 persons removed from one another.
Yeah.
I think that marries out on Facebook and all the coincidences sometimes that occur between friends that you wouldn't have thought were connected, and suddenly you realise, they are connected. So I think we all are, really. Anyway, lovely to be invited.
No worries.
Really, actually, I was nervous at the beginning, but it was really lovely. Thank you. Maybe I'll return invite one day.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. It's been lovely.
It's been lovely meeting you properly now. For the first time, I hear your voice, but actually to meet you and speak to you, it's been lovely. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Is there anything else, Ben, you want to say, or we all good?
I think that's
good. Good, yeah.
All righty. Well, I'll wrap this up quickly. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It's been a kind of, I guess, a history lesson in Italy in a sense, which has been very, very interesting. We upload these Thursday 4 p.m. for everyone watching. Like it, leave a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here. 750 subscribers by the end of the year is our goal. We may never make it, but it's nice to get close. All right. Well, we'll see you guys Thursday at 4 p.m.
Okay. Take care.